Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to learn how to take rough, really rough cut wood off a chainsaw mill, turn it into an actual usable board to make furniture from. And we're going to do it all with hand tools. Last fall, I cut this board on my chainsaw mill and left it sitting outside for a while and then took it up, put it in the barn. It's been drying all winter long. I went up the other day, took a moisture meter, stuck it on here, and we are at 7% moisture, which is right where you want to be. So this is nice and dried out. It's a piece of ash. It is 1 inch thick. It is roughly this tall. So you call that, I don't know, 4 feet, 4.5 feet or so. It's a not bad piece of wood. So it does have, if you can tell down this board or not, it does have a little bit of a twang twist on the end here.
That's a twist. That's very twisty.
But we can cut that off. There's a couple knots in here. I'm going to teach you what to look for if you're trying to make furniture quality boards, which means furniture quality, we usually want nice clear wood. It's 1 inch thick at this point. We're probably going to get it down to 3/4 of an inch thick by the time we're done planing it and getting the twist out of it and everything. Might get a couple decent size, maybe 2-foot board out of this. So let's see. All right, so this is the board that we cut. It's about 8.25 inches. We're almost 8.5 there, so roughly 8 inches wide, and it's about 4 feet long. Like I said, it's 1 inch thick. It's got some good decent twist to it here, but if you can see on here, it's kind of hard to tell because the grain, it's old and it's kind of, you know, it's seen some dirt and stuff, but we've got a fairly decent size knot here and we've got a fairly decent size knot there. Other than that, it looks fairly clear. We do have a little bit of a crack here where it's checked a little bit, but the wood curves down. This is the top of the log. Side is going towards the center of the log. The other side's going towards the outside of the log, so it does curve in. So we're gonna have to cut some of this off, but we roughly want to see if we can find at least about a 6.5 inch board out of this by the time we get it done. So with these two knots, I don't want these. With furniture grade wood, what you want is nice clear grain. So I can see that we have a nice straight grain here. It's fairly clear between these two spots, and we're roughly, I'd say, about 2 feet between the two. So if we cut this down here and we cut it off here, get those knots out of it, we'll have a nice 2-foot long board that's fairly clear. We've got our board in the vise. We're nice and secure. Our knot is right here, so I want to cut right here close to the vise so that we don't get too much vibration or wobble in the wood. Wibble.
That phrase is trademark, not to be used outside tradition, Ricky Bobby.
In the wood while we're cutting. So let's grab our crosscut saw and just get as close as we can to the knot. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight at this point. We're not looking to square anything up. Just try to cut down. All right, one side cut. Let's cut the other side of our knot now. We are roughly down to 23.5 inches. Probably could have got another 1/2 inch out of that, cutting a little bit closer to knots, but 23 inches is fine with me. It'll probably be down to 23 by the time we square off the ends or so, but this will be a decent sized board to do something with for sure. So at this point, what I want to do instead of squaring anything is start to flatten one of these sides. This is really rough cut. It's like off the chainsaw. It was one of my first cuts, so it's got a lot of highs and lows. What we want to do is start to bring this down to a smooth, flat surface so that we can start to reference all the rest of our planes off of that. what we're gonna do is get out the number 5 scrub plane and start to rough smooth all this stuff out and get it down to a nice plain surface. I've got the board locked in on the vise. I just screwed a couple pieces of wood down on the sides just so it'll hold it in place, and then shoved a wedge in here just to tighten it everything up real good. I've got our number 5 scrub going. I've got a fairly aggressive cut, and basically what I'm gonna do is traverse side to side. That's gonna take the most material off the fastest and try to get down to a nice even-ish surface so that we can start taking the twist out and getting one side flat. So basically right now I'm just gonna go side to side until I get down to a fairly level surface. Get it down most of the way, take it, flip it over, do the same thing from the other side. Get this broken piece off of here so it's not catching them. It's looking good. I'm gonna pull this wedge out. I'm gonna go with the grain now.
So the next thing we want to do is test for flat. So wood, naturally, as it grows in the tree, does this. It twists, right? So naturally, with your wood, when you cut it into a board, it's going to want to twist. It's our job to plane the twist out of it. So how we do that is using winding sticks. I unfortunately don't have winding sticks, but what I do have are 2 flat machined straight edges. So what I did was put some blue tape on one of them that I can put at this end and another one at this end. And basically what you do is you look down the edge with your eye and you look to see where the blue disappears behind the black. And if one side is a little higher, which that side is just a little bit higher, that means this side's high and this side's high. Now, it will exaggerate it a lot. So I can just see a smidge of blue on this side and not so much on this side. So I need to take off a couple shavings on this side and a couple shavings on that side, and we should be nice and flat then.
So I'm gonna take a little bit off here. And a little bit off here. Then traverse the board again. Then put my winding sticks on and test again. And we look to be dead on flat now. So now we have one nice flat, out of twist surface. This is still rough. It still has undulations from our scrub plane, but we can take that out later with our smoothing plane. But for now, at least we have one solid reference that we can reference everything else off of. So from here, I want to start pulling lines out of where I'm going to make my square board. So what am I looking for when I'm looking for a board? I obviously want a straight edge. Clearly this has a curve to it, right? You can see it curves. So I don't want a curved board. I want a nice square straight board. So what I'm looking for is the grain. We do have a tiny little knot here, but nothing really to be worried about. Once we get this down to our finish material, we can either cut that out, we can cut around it, whatever. What I do want to do is take less sapwood, which is this lighter wood on the edge here. I want more of the heartwood, which is the nice reddish color that you see in the center. That's the wood that I want the majority of. If I just took the heartwood, which you could, this board would not be very wide. It'd be kind of maybe 4 inches wide here, which is not the most ideal. This wasn't the biggest tree. This was close to the top of the cut, so you don't get a whole lot, which I'm okay with a little bit of sapwood, but I don't want to go crazy with it. I think what I'll do is square this side off here. Since this is the best side, this one has the crack in it. I'm going to square this side off here and work from there. It does have some sapwood in it, and it has this these spots where it's an ash tree where the bugs would crawl in and eat and stuff. And they're the ones from the emerald ash board that created this weird blotchiness in the sapwood. So I do want to keep some of this because I do like that in some of my pieces, and I can always later, when I use this wood for my project, if I don't want it, I can cut it off. But I'm going to make this as wide as I can, so I'm going to square this side off here and get it planed down, and that way I'll start having 2 edges that I can now start, referencing off of. Back in the vise, we've got our reference line here that we're planing down to. We've got our scrub plane out, and let's start taking this side down. So we're looking good. Actually, probably didn't need to go down that far. We've got pretty much clear wood all the way across this. What I'm going to start doing now is just checking to see how square we are against our initial face. And we're looking really good, actually. So I'm going to take a straight edge, lay it across, and see if we have any twists or any warp. So yeah, we've got a significant amount of bowing in the middle here, so I'm going to take some shavings off the middle so that we can get rid of that wobble. Test again. Get a little bit still. Yep, still a lot in the middle there. So more shavings. Nice. Then I'm going to put a light behind it and check. So now I can see a little bit of light in the middle and none on the ends, which means we went a little too far in the middle, which is fine because I can just traverse this. It should be okay. There we are. I can just feel it now. We are nice and flat. Nothing really coming through. That's just a plastic edge though. Let's check a nice machined edge. That is looking really good. No wobble, nice and flat. Check our square to reference the face. And we're looking really nice and flat and square there. Now I'm gonna get my smoother out and hear that as it goes over, that means it's hitting high spots. Our scrub plane's real aggressive, but it's gonna leave a few high spots here and there. Our smoother will come through. And take care of all that for us. And we want to keep doing that until we hear a nice, consistent shaving all the way across from one side to another. And the reason I say that is I can hear in here we have a definite low spot. I can see that there's a low spot on this side of the board. So I'm just going to keep taking shavings until we get down to a nice even cut. Nice. We've got nice feathery shavings all the way across now. Double check that we're nice and square. So you can still see this side is still really rough from the mill, but we're starting to get nice, crisp 90-degree lines between our two reference surfaces. So at this point, we now have a reference surface here and one here. So what we do is do the face mark, which is kind of like the top of a cursive F there. And then I do a triangle on this side just to point, saying this is my reference surface, and this is pointing at this is the other reference surface. So we are now nice and square on one side, we're nice and flat. Double check everything is nice and square. Good. So now everything else that we mark off this board to square it up is going to be marked, referenced off this surface. So I'm never going to take my square and reference off like back here or something. Everything comes off this surface here. We can come in now with a square, reference off of this edge is what I mean by a reference surface. We can put our square here and we can start to square off these sides. So if we bring our square to this edge, you can see if I bring it right to this edge, there's still a lot of meat here, right? So I'm going to come in a little bit and pull a line, and that is going to be the edge of our board. That'll give a nice 90-degree edge. Then I come over to this side and give as much room as I can. You can see there's significant amount of, that saw wasn't cut straight at all there. So we're going to come over to like here, over here, pull a square line there. Trying to do this backwards for you guys. So that will basically come through with our crosscut saw. We'll saw those down now, put them on a shooting board, plane them, and that will give us 3 square sides. And then from there, all we have to do is mark this side to the length of the board that we want, and we'll have a nice square board. That'll do. We now have this side flat, 90 degrees to this edge. We have 2 90-degree sides all squared up and cut flat. So now we're going to get the thickness of our board. So essentially I'm going to come through here and find the closest I can get to this edge here, which is about 6.5. So if I go there, mark 6.5, come here, 6.5, come up here, 6.5, take a straight edge reference and pull a line. Double check our lines, our 6.5, dead on. So now we have a nice line coming all the way down, 6.5 inch wide board. Let's get this ripped off, and then we can set we can plane the other side and get down the thickness. Really need a saw bench. All right, flip it over in the vise and plane it flat. Going against the grain, so I'm going to flip it. Still referencing our surface, looking nice and square. Wobble. Looking for light, more light. Smooth it. Check our width. We are at 6 3/8 and 6 3/8. Very good, very nice. That's a good board so far. We now have 6.5 inch wide board that is square on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. But we still have this side, which is really, really rough, if you can see that. So what we want to do is get this down flat. We don't need to do the same process we did over here, trying to make everything perfectly flat. What we can do is set our marking gauge to the width of this board. So the thinnest point, essentially, is where we want to go with it. So we'll say like right here. So again, referencing our reference surface right here. So we're gonna start down here. And we're just gonna pull the line going all the way down. We're gonna do that, flipping over, reference surface, all the way around. Cool. So we've got our reference lines all the way around. So now I'm just going to put this back on the bench, get the scrub plane back out, and bring it down to that line all the way around. At that point, we now have a perfectly 3/4 inch thick board that's square on all 6 sides. Let's get the scrub on this now, get it down to thickness all the way around. That should take any twist out of it as well, because we've already flattened the one side, and we'll have us a nice 3/4 inch piece of ash. Let's do it. So here's our finished product. We've got a 3/4 inch board that is, bear with me. So here's our finished product. We've got a 3/4 inch thick board that is 22 5/8 by 6.5 inches wide. This is a really beautiful piece of figured ash. It's got some nice sapwood in it, some nice spalting, bug marks and stuff. It is a beautiful color. This is a really nice piece of wood. This could go into anything. You can make a really nice box out of this, add it to a piece of furniture, put it into a piece of paneling, whatever you wanted to do with it. But at this point, we have taken a rough piece of wood that came off a chainsaw mill, sat outside, dried off of a log, and processed our own beautiful piece of figured lumber that we can now build projects with. And we did it all by hand without any power tools. I think that's pretty cool. So I could take this further. If you look closer, this has been done all with the scrub plane. So if you can get your eye down there, it does have some undulation from the scrub plane. This does have, but it is perfectly square and perfectly flat. I'm not going to flatten this anymore until I use it on the project that I'm going to use it on. I don't know how much further I want to take this. I don't know what pieces I'm going to take out of it to make my project. So it doesn't make any sense to make it glass flat at this point. This is all you need to make lumber. And to be honest, way back in the day when they were doing this type of work with hand planes, this may have been as far as they take a tabletop. They would take a tabletop, get it to this roughness, and then when they built the table, they would only finish plane the top, the surface you're gonna see. The underneath, if you find an old table from way back in the day, when they made them by hand, and you look underneath and you rub your hand across, you'll feel those little ripples in the wood. So anyway, that's it for today. If you like this type of content, subscribe down below. Give me a thumbs up so you don't mix the next one that we do that has something relation to this stuff, or camping or motorcycles or whatever your fancy is. We probably do it here. So do all the things. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think of this or what you think of me. Either way, good or bad, I enjoy all comments. I just don't reply to the bad ones. Anyway, see you on the next one.